Good afternoon. I'm Jared Effler, the elected district attorney for Tennessee's 8th Judicial District, of which Campbell County is a part of. On January the 1st, 1985, an unidentified female body was discovered murdered along Interstate 75 in Campbell County, Tennessee. At that time, an investigation was launched by the TBI to determine two things: the identity of the unknown female and who was responsible for her death. Yesterday, the results of that investigation were presented to the Campbell County Grand Jury. The Grand Jury found that the unidentified body was that of Tina Marie Farmer of Marion County, Indiana. Additionally, the Grand Jury found that there was sufficient proof to believe that Jerry Johns of Cleveland, Tennessee caused her death, and that but for Mr. Johns' own death in 2015, he would have been indicted for first-degree murder. While I am extremely disappointed that this case has not concluded in the prosecution of Jerry Johns, I am pleased that this investigation has answered questions for Ms. Farmer's family that heretofore had gone unanswered for over 34 years. At this time, I'll turn the conference over to Director Neely.
Good afternoon. I'm Brad Nealon, Deputy Director for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. We'd like to thank General Effler and his office for their efforts and support on this case. This hasn't been easy, but we never gave up, and that represents our commitment to all cases, even those deemed cold. Our agency exists that guilt shall not escape, nor innocence suffer, and we're gratified that we can now provide some answers to the family of Tina Farmer. I'd like to recognize Special Agent Brandon Elkins and Intelligence Analyst Amy Emberton for their work on this case over the years. Agent Elkins has been working this case for the last 10 years. He was assigned the case as a detective while working for the Campbell County Sheriff's Department and continued to work on the case after he was hired by the TBI. In 2016, Agent Elkins resubmitted evidence in this case to the TBI Crime Laboratory for examination. That proved to be a major turning point in the investigation. DNA was found on items that was analyzed. As a result, a DNA profile was entered into the combined DNA index system, resulting in a match. That profile matched that of Jerry Johns, who was first identified as a possible suspect in this investigation in the mid-'80s. Another significant development occurred in the case last year. Up until then, the identity of the victim was not known. She was simply referred to as Jane Doe. In August 2018, Agent Elkins was made aware of a website that focused on missing persons cases. One of the individuals listed on the website was Tina Marie McKinney Farmer, who was reportedly missing from Indiana. Ms. Farmer matched description of the unidentified female found in Campbell County. TBI intelligence analyst Amy Emberton was able to track down a fingerprint card on Farmer from the early '80s. Those fingerprints were compared against the postmortem prints of the Campbell County Jane Doe, resulting in a positive match. Since that time, Agent Elkins has been working diligently to put the missing pieces of this case together. This is a perfect example of how determination, combined with traditional police work and modern-day science, can lead to major developments in cold cases. We have more cases like this to pursue, and we will pursue them as time and resources allow, because we believe justice demands it.
We're going to now open it up for questions. Also on the screen, that's Tina Farmer, and that's the suspect, Jerry Johns. And of course, I'll send those photos out along with the news release.
Question: you said Mr. Johns was initially identified back in the '80s. How was he identified back then, and why was that identification made well before identification of the body was made?
I'll introduce Special Agent Brandon Elkins.
Thank you. In 1985, Mr. Johns was determined to be a suspect based on another case that happened here in Knox County that was very similar. And during that investigation, they learned a lot about Mr. Johns, his whereabouts, and the MO of the two cases were very similar.
One question I think a lot of people are going to have is there's people who have drawn connections between Farmer's murder and others, calling them the Redhead Murders. Is this potentially the person who did all of these crimes?
We're open to options on that. We're still looking into other possibilities on other cases. Right now, I can't tell you with any definitive proof that he's involved in any other cases.
What is it like when you get to this point? You've worked this case for how many years now?
12 years.
What is it like to get to this point to know that you have your guy?
Pretty amazing. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of dead ends, but it's been very rewarding to be able to call, speak to family members, and tell them that we've been able to solve, a 34-year-old mystery.
Well, I imagine there has been a lot of frustration along the way. I mean, describe some of that along those 12 years that you've worked this case.
I think technology's caught up a lot. We're able to use today's technology to solve yesterday's crimes, but we have to wait on that technology. So over the years, I've watched that technology change, just in the last few years even. And so I guess that has taken a lot of patience. But also I think at the same time, not being able to identify her was really difficult. And then obviously the most challenging thing for me is just the fact that we're not able, just as General Effler said, not able to charge this individual because he's already deceased.
When did he die?
In 2015.
So fairly recently, since you've been working on this case.
That's right.
We have a mugshot for him. Were there other crimes for which he was charged?
Yes, he had been convicted of other crimes.
Any murders?
He had been charged with a felonious assault and convicted here in Knox County back in 1985.
You mentioned talking to family members. What kinds of interactions have you had with family since she was identified last September or so?
Good conversations. They obviously have a lot of questions, and unfortunately, many of those we can't answer.
I imagine some of those questions are: how did she come to know Mr. Johns? How did
Sure.
this end up happening? Or is there any kind of insight you have on what might have happened to lead to this?
I think that we have several ideas. We know that she had been at a truck stop near her hometown, and Mr. Johns was a long-haul truck driver, and we believe the connection lies somewhere in there.
A long-haul truck driver is someone who's been looked at a lot for these Redhead murders. People kind of guess that maybe that might be why bodies dumped along the interstate. Have you interacted with investigative officials from other states that are looking into these kinds of murders and maybe saying, have you tested for this DNA?
Yeah, so we have throughout the process spoken to other investigators, other state agencies, and local agencies, and tried to see if there's a connection. But I guess our hope is now that we've come to a conclusion in this case, that this case can maybe help them to see if there is a connection between Mr. Johns and their case.
Why was he ruled out as a suspect in the 80s?
I won't say that he was ever ruled out as a suspect in 1985, but unfortunately, again, we're limited, or they were limited then in 1985. DNA technology was not what it is today. It was, pretty much non-existent at the time, and so even though they really truly believed with firm conviction and understanding based on their investigative work that he was responsible for it, there was just not enough probable cause to charge him with this murder.
Did he pass in prison?
Yes, he did.
And do you know what that crime was that he was in there for at that time?
Yeah, so he was charged and convicted in the state of Tennessee for felonious assault of another female here in Knoxville in 1985, in I think March of 1985. But then he was also, it was later transferred to federal prison because he picked up some additional charges in the federal system in about 1997 involving threats.
And do we know how she wound up at this location in Campbell County?
That's a difficult question to answer, I guess. Ultimately, we can't answer the details. We don't know all the details of when she was picked up or anything like that. But we do know that she was dumped right off the side of the interstate.
Do you find information here that maybe leads you to some other cold cases that is out there?
it's always a potential option for us. You know, we're definitely looking at other cases that could match this one.
Is the case up in Kentucky where the female was found in the refrigerator? I think her name was Epsy or something like that. Is she, or is he a suspect in that?
I can't answer that question just because we're not working, and I don't know if he's one of their suspects or not at this point.
You mentioned, Deputy Director, you mentioned earlier kind of the process, and Special Agent, you mentioned the waiting for technology to catch up. Talk about some of the technological advances that helped you get to this point where you could identify this person. I know there was talk of a fingerprint card earlier to identify her. How did you identify him?
You know, so one of the things that changed, and I can't remember the year. I know it was probably in the early 2000s. I don't remember when CODIS went live in Tennessee. But one of the things that's really helped law enforcement is that when offenders are charged with crimes, their DNA is collected. And so that system, when it's available or with someone's DNA, it gives us the ability to link cases that we don't know who the suspect is. And so DNA technology changing has made it possible for us to be able to find the profile on the items, and then that match is what made all the difference. But also in this case, I think social media played a role. You know, through this amateur website that we got the tip to, we were able to use Facebook to find where that original post had been made, and ultimately that's what led to contacting the Farmer family and helping us to make the match.
Is that website called the Doe Network?
No.
That's not that? Okay.
No.
What was her family's reaction to this news that you guys presented us today?
I think probably mixed emotions. I think they were happy to have some sort of conclusion, but I think kind of like the rest of us, you know, it's an odd conclusion because he's already, you know, deceased. So I think they're happy to know that we've continued to work on this case. As the Deputy Director said, we continue to push forward on these cases regardless of where they're at. But I think it will, in time, provide some peace and closure, I hope.
Was this now closed officially, like the investigation, or do you look for any other evidence or anything, people for that matter?
We'll continue to work with other agencies or information that comes in that may be related to Mr. Johns and other cases.
But this particular case itself, is it closed? Is there anyone else that could be involved, or?
There's no indication of that. The findings of the grand jury yesterday, and you all will be provided a copy of those at the conclusion of the conference, spell out with great specificity why we believe that Mr. Johns is responsible for the murder of Tina Marie Farmer.
Sir, if you don't mind stepping to the podium, I've got one question for you. If Mr. Johns was not deceased, what would you charge him with?
Based upon the grand jury findings yesterday, had Mr. Johns been alive at the time the case was presented to the grand jury yesterday, he would have been charged for the first-degree murder of Tina Marie Farmer.
What is it like for you to know that you can't bring that charge?
It's extremely disappointing because, as Agent Elkins said, we do face this conclusion with mixed emotions. While we are glad to provide answers to Ms. Farmer's family, we are extremely disappointed that we're not able to prosecute Mr. Johns.
Any other questions?
I just have one for you, Special Agent, and I know, I'm just trying to remember my facts on this. Ms. Farmer was in her 20s, is that right? What kind of information can you give us about her?
Yeah, she was 21 years old at the time.
21 years old at the time. And was she pregnant?
She was.
Did that play a role at all in this, do you think?
I think it's definitely something that we looked at the time to try to determine if that had any bearing on what caused her death. But that information never became necessary as far as this conclusion is concerned.
And is there any indication on when she was killed versus when she was found?
According to the medical examiner's report from then, it was within just a few days. Of course, it was very cold out. It was January 1st. So.
Just to be clear, you don't have anything right now linking him, of course we've heard the words tossed around, the Redhead Murders. You don't have any information right now linking him to any of these other women?
We do not have him, any sort of confirmation of a link at this point.
But it's something you're looking into?
We'll continue to look into it, yes.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Time for one more question?
Sure.
Okay.
Was it considered double homicide? Did anybody consider double homicide charges for the unborn child as well as her?
No, that was not part of the consideration as what we presented to the grand jury. That was not considered.
Will those documents be made available to the public?
Yes, our PIO has a copy of those, and that's a public record at this time, and she will distribute those at the conclusion of this conference.
Okay, and do you know the name of the family members that you spoke with? Did that include her sister, Liza Plummer?
That's a question for Agent Elkins.
I don't feel comfortable releasing that information right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.